Hi everyone, welcome to the Chief Challenge. This week we're working on the she shed. What makes a she shed? Well, we're going to find out. So let's talk about the process that we want to take with the she shed. The first thing is to lay out the walls. We have the floor plan dimensions. We want to set the ceiling height, get ready to do the clerestory style roof. So we'll be doing a little bit of manual roof editing, and then we're going to go ahead and place our windows that follow the gable wall. And then we'll finalize it with the other windows, the barn door, and place the planters. We have 10 minutes to do it. You'll be seeing a timer in the lower right hand side of my screen. So let's take a look and see if we can get started on the she shed. So let's go ahead and start the timer, and then with the wall tool I'm going to click and drag, press the tab key. Let's go ahead and put in 12 feet. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Click and drag, press the tab key. Put in minus 12 feet since we're going in that direction. Next wall, and we get our extension snap. And then that encloses the room, creates our automatic dimensions. Inside of the room, I'm going to come down to the structure panel. Let's subtract 12 inches off the ceiling, remove the flat ceiling, and underneath the floor, let's go in, edit the floor structure, and remove the framing structure since this will be sitting on a slab. That should do it for the room. Then next, I'm going to use the wall tool. This will be temporary. Let's go ahead and click and drag, set this wall to be 4 feet. This will be for our clerestory. And then on the two opposing walls, let's set that as a full gable wall. Up in the attic, you'll notice that the attic wall, I want to make a change to this. On the roof structure, let's come in and use this option, roof cuts wall at bottom. That's going to prompt us to say the program is notifying you you're going to mess with the attic wall. And then before we manually modify the roof, let's go into our roof and make a few changes. The first one is on the gutter. I'm just going to simply remove the gutter, and then on the structure for the framing, I'm going to change that to a 2x6 or 5.5 inches. And then let's go in and modify the roof. Now the first thing is, let's pull the roof using the brake tool. Let's put a brake right in this region, turn off the automatic roof when the program prompts us, snap that back to the front of the wall, use the brake tool, put a brake over here, pull this to the other edge, and then finally let's pull this roof and set that to be 18 inches at overhang. Now when we go in and take a 3D overview of this, we should have our clerestory style roof as we rotate around. And let me just pause the video at this point, or the timer, and let's talk about what we just did here. I marked the attic wall to have the roof cuts wall at bottom. So you see where the roof is coming in here, and when we check that option, it will shave off the bottom of the wall, and that wall will not go into the bottom of the structure. Over in the floor plan view on floor 1, if you notice, the roof that we pulled over is actually over the top of that wall, and remember that wall's on the attic. It's now cutting that at the bottom, and that's a nice option, because if we were to uncheck that option, and we'll just go in there and uncheck it, the wall is not going to generate properly. You see there's a big hole there. So this is a nice option if you want the wall to be trimmed off by the roof. Roof cuts wall at bottom. Just let me uncheck or undo that to get back to where we were. And I'm going to go ahead and turn the timer back on. So let's turn the timer back on. Let me go over into the floor plan view, and on floor 1 I'm going to click delete that wall. It's no longer needed. And when I do the elevation view, I'm actually going to pull this other roof back just slightly so we don't get a line from the roof overhang. I'm going to use the elevation tool. Let's shoot an elevation. Use the window tool, click, and place our first window. As we open up the window, the first thing is to make this fixed glass on the sill. Let's remove it, and then I'm going to set that as our default. And then let's go ahead and go back into that window. On the general panel, let's set the width at 28, the height at 12, floor to bottom is at, let's say, 92 and an eighth. And then for the shape of the window, let's come down and match the roof. and there is the window. I like to use a CAD line to get this centered and figure out exactly where we need it. This is a temporary line. I'm going to center that on the structure using the center tool. Let's zoom in, click on this window, and I might be able to use the point-to-point tool and just pull that over and get the center of it, slide a copy of that over. So let's go ahead and slide a copy of it over, press the tab key. I like to do that quite a bit for exactness. And now all I need to do is pull this other window up a little bit lower than that. And now I can grab both of these windows, shift key, copy, and reflect about, pick up that line, pull both of those windows over, and now as we get ready to place the door, I come in to place it, notice it won't place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab each one of those windows holding my shift key down. Let's open it up. On the options panel, I'm going to set the level to level 1, and then when I go back to the door, place the door, I can then easily place it. So let's pause one more time and let's talk about what I just did here. Those windows technically are on a different level, the attic level, although in the floor plan, if we move over, you're seeing those windows on the main floor, and they're not technically in the attic floor. When you need to stack objects like windows above a door or multiple windows, that level option inside of the window dialog is where you can do that. You'll find it on the options panel, and it's called vertical stacking. Nice option to have. So let me turn the timer back on, and in the camera view, let's go ahead and grab that door. Let's reflect it so that it's on the outside. We'll resize that to 40 inches. Over in the library, let's grab the barn door. We'll center that door now on the outside of the structure. And then let's also grab the material as long as we're in here and apply that to the outside. Now for these windows, they're exactly the same on the other side. I'm going to hold my shift key down, grab those, use the copy tool, use the reflect about. I'm going to orbit around, pick up the center, and then you see them flipped on the other side. One more pause of the video here. When I selected those windows and then I couldn't see maybe where I wanted to reflect those about, I still wanted to maintain the selection of the windows. So the way to do that, the windows are currently selected, is to hold your Alt key down and it will maintain the selection. Your Alt key and the middle mouse button. It's a great way if you're trying to paint maybe something on the other side, you can't see it, you're already in a mode. That's a nice little tip to maintain. Hold your Alt key down and middle mouse button. You can orbit around and get to exactly what you need. Okay, let's turn the timer back on. And the next thing we want to do is place our windows up in the Clerestory. So let's grab our window tool, place our first window. Let's open that window up, and that should be something like 40 by 20. And then we'll set the floor to bottom so that that's just above the roof. And then I'm going to use the multiple copy. I'm going to set the multiple copy interval at 42 inches. Slide a couple of copies over there. Again, hold the shift key down. Center it on the roof, and then one more window down below. Let's place that one. This window should be a double casement window, and let's set the width at 36. Same for the floor to bottom at 36. Move over into the floor plan view. Let's figure out where we're at dimension wise. Pick on the dimension, 2'3", and now we can copy and reflect that and get set up. One more pause here. You might notice if you participated in the Chief Challenge, the dimensions were set up to go to the center of the object. And right now in the default template plan using, it's going to the edge or the rough opening for that window. You can change your dimension defaults depending on what your preference is. And if you wanted to do that and have it go to the center, I'm just going to click on the Edit Active View. And underneath the selected defaults, it happens to be we're using the dimensions for the plan dimension defaults. Let's go in and First of all, let's go down to the automatic exterior dimension. And right now it's set up to be sides. If you wanted to change that to be centers, you could select the center option, and then extensions itself, if you did want the center line, you could leave this auto mark, or you can remove it, and then that will move your dimension to the center of that object. So if you want to get specific on how your out of the template works, look at your setup defaults, and in this case for the dimensions. Let me go ahead and turn the timer back on. We've got about 4 minutes left. I'm going to grab our window box planter. Let's place that off to the side. Let's pull that into the window itself. You could use the center key, center that on the window, and then I notice that that's on the planters layer. So let's go ahead and grab both the window and the planter. Copy, reflect about, flip that around, and then one more time with both of those objects, copy, reflect about the center. We'll go back into our 3D view, see what we've got. Notice the layer's not turned on for planters, so let's make sure we turn that layer on. So we'll type in the word planter. And once we turn that layer on, I think we've got our she shed. And we've done this in just over 7 minutes. Let's flip on the line drawing on top. And there we go. The she shed in under 10 minutes. Thanks for participating in the Chief Challenge. Hope you learned a couple of fun tips, and we'll see you with the next Chief Challenge.
I hope everybody had fun with the Chief Challenge, and we're going to open it up here for some live Q&A. If you want to raise your hand, and when we call on you, simply unmute your microphone. If you don't have a microphone, feel free to just chat your question in, and we'll make sure we get it addressed. So at the end of the Q&A, I'm going to announce a winner. If the winner happens to be online, we'll give you a chance to unmute your microphone, share your secrets with what worked well for your She Shed challenge. So with that, Phil, do we have any questions out there that have come in?
Thanks, Scott. We did have a typed question come in asking if you can cover why you use the floor default for the room height again.
Yeah, so if you wanted to set the defaults for your floor, I think in this project, we actually just went into the room itself on the structure. And one of the things I like to do is use math in here so you can set it up. If you know ahead of time what all of your rooms are going to be for a given design, because this is a one-room show here, you can go into your default settings. And if we look at that underneath of the defaults, underneath floors and rooms, we only have one story here, so you're only going to see the first floor. But here's where you can actually set your default, and in this case you can see that it's set to roughly be an 8-foot type ceiling, and that way all of your rooms for a given floor will come in at that height, and can make it a little bit quicker as you're going through the design process.
Thanks, Scott. It looks like Tim Schrook has a question. Tim, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask Scott your question.
Hey, Scott, this was a fun challenge. On a I guess a technical question, the challenge said integrated planters. So that took me some time, and I noticed you didn't integrate them in the windowsill. I wonder how you would do that. I figured out a way, but I wondered how you would do that.
Yeah, so I used the clip-on style, right? I just stuck them on there. Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure if obviously if I wanted to have them framed and everything, I'd probably just design them in a separate plan, which is what I typically do, show the framing detail. I built a set of those here recently. and then I just export them as a symbol. So I probably wouldn't go through the effort to figure out how to use a wall tool and raise the wall up and frame them.
But
Yeah,
not so much a wall. Not so much a wall. I guess I went the route of exporting it as a millwork and clipping it into the windows sill as an exterior treatment type of thing.
Okay. Oh, great. Yeah. Well, that sounds perfect. These planters here that were included in the library were exported as symbols, developed in another plan, exported as symbols. But it sounds like you took that a step further and put it into the sill setting in the window itself.
I assume that's what you were meaning. When you said wall, are you thinking like you went toward like creating those as separate rooms with wall?
No, the way that I actually created those, Tim, I built a set of those here recently, and so I went through the details of laying it all out with 2x4s and whatever.
Gotcha.
And then I put a covering on it, and then put plants in it. I didn't show the 2x4 layer, but I just exported those. When you select these, you probably already know about this, but you can come up in your tools, down to symbol, and convert to symbol, a selected object, and that will push it out into your library. And that's really all I did. I just happened to do it in a separate plan, and then when it shows up in your library, in this case, we built that Chief Challenge library for the She Shed. That's where you're seeing that pushed out, and then I just placed it from the library. But if you went through a lot of that effort, wow, that sounds like you put a lot of work into it.
I was going for the full challenge here.
Yeah, it sounds like
it was fun. I learned something out of it, so that was good.
Challenge and a half. Okay, good job. Okay, Phil, any other questions here?
Thanks, Tim. Scott, we had another user type in that they were a bit lost in understanding the process for creating the clerestory roof, and just wanted to see if you could show how to do that again.
Yeah. So clerestory roofs, kind of fun to do, and one of the easier ways that I like to do these, I know the session went a little bit quick when we did that, is to start with a gable style roof and let the program automatically generate that. So kind of go through and set your pitch, and then once the program has generated the shape of it, then it's a matter of adding the attic wall and then manually dragging the roof over that. And so roughly, if I just kind of started a new plan, the process is, once you have the shape, typically if you have the automatic roof on, this is going to give you, a hip roof. And if I toggle those walls to a gable, typically in the clerestory roof, you may want to see out those windows. So if you remove the flat ceiling out of it, and then that attic wall that you see, this is technically an attic wall up here, and it doesn't go down through the structure, right? And so what I find easy to do, because I'm going to have to manually move this roof around so that it wraps around that wall. And what I found easy, or find easy to do, is I'm going to put a wall on the first floor. And by putting it on the first floor, this is temporary because I'm just using this for placement. So this is kind of maybe just a productivity tip. So then once you place it and you set your dimension, set it at 4 feet, this is going to show up in your attic level because I'd removed the ceiling. And if you didn't remove the ceiling, obviously you can draw a wall up in the attic wall, but this is now up in the ceiling. And if we take a 3D view of this, right, you're seeing the attic wall, if we turn this on, kind of stuck up in there. And once I start to pull the roof back, and maybe we can kind of do this in a 3D view, and as soon as I pull this back, what's going to happen is the program is going to prompt us to say the automatic roof is turned off. And then I'm going to pull the other side of the roof over, right, over that. And so that's the beginning of that clerestory room. And to make sure the wall is generated accurately, what I'm going to end up doing is coming onto the wall specification under the roof, and there's an option to say the roof cuts wall at the bottom, because what I really want to happen is I want, and I'll have to look at what's going on there, I want the roof to be going over that attic wall and then have it cut. So let's go back into the floor plan view. Let's come down here. And if you take a look at the wall, I pulled it too far back, but if I just pull it back over the top of it, so this roof is now sitting over the top of that wall. And of course, this wall is on floor 1. It's really the attic wall that we're after. I can technically just delete that wall because I used it since I want to see it on floor 1. And then we go back over into the view, and you can see that's how we got the clerestory style roof. Let's toggle that back on so we can kind of see what's going on. The other thing that I did is I pulled the roof up and so that it meets the other side of the eave. And in doing that, you know, I just pulled this over. You see how it's cutting the wall at that point? So I need to pull that back. And again, it's a little easier to do this in your floor plan view so you can see exactly where it's coming in, and then pull that back just a little bit. So that's kind of how I nested that roof up underneath the soffit of the higher roof plane. So hopefully that helps a little bit.
Thanks, Scott. Someone was wondering if you can show the story pole dimension tool and how that works.
Sure. So you see on the screen here, we use the story pole dimension to generate this and try to give you a little bit of guidance on what the elevation dimensions were. And this can be configured to go on the left side, on the right side, or top and bottom for that matter. It's an automatic tool. I usually will use this in an automatic mode and then manually adjust it. In some of these cases, some of the dimensions may not get picked up because of the way your structure may be built. And then you can also make it very personalized. And if we go back over into the plan that we're looking at, and this is the elevation view that I had provided in the challenge. And so you see the dimensions over here, also some call outs. In generating this, let's just go ahead and use the elevation camera. I'm going to click and drag to generate a new clean elevation. And now you'll find the tool underneath the automatic dimensions. And when I click that and place it, it's going to give you some of the dimensions. This is configurable, as I mentioned. You'll find those settings underneath your default tools, underneath dimensions. And then there's a specific one for the auto story pole dimensions. And I usually make this change in my template plan because I typically use the same settings. So you can place your dimensions on the right or left, right? And so in this case, they're off to the right-hand side. You can place them on both for that matter. There's a reach indicator in here, and currently mine's set to be 75%. What does that mean? That means it's going to look horizontally across 75% of the structure and then stop. So depending on what you're doing, you may want that to be 100%. Many times I'll even set it to be 50% because I don't want too many dimensions picked up on the other side. I might do a front-facing elevation on the right, do a rear-facing dimension on the left, or on the right again, and it will pick up both sides, and I have the detail that I need. So inside of the auto story pole dimension, a couple other points that I usually will look at are the locate elevations, and there's a list of available marks. You can come down and you can add those, or there are a list of those that you're currently using and you can remove those. In this case, you notice that we have the grade level marker 0.5 inches or 0.5 foot, and that's a function of what you put in the grade level marker. That grade level marker also can be removed, so it won't include it. And these are most of the settings that you have control over. And if we just kind of delete that, rerun that dimension for the story pole, see that the sub or the grade is now not on here. And then if you want to modify this, you can pull these dimensions over and modify them. If it's not able to locate something, like if I came over here and I wanted this on the bottom of the wall, difficult to pick up. I'm not seeing the bottom of the wall. Maybe it picks up the top of the window. So what I'll do in that case is I might use a line or a CAD point, zoom in, maybe turn my crosshairs on, figure out where this line is going to be drawn. I'll draw a small line for the purposes of picking up the dimension, grab the extra diamond, pull it over, pick that up, and notice that there's no description for this dimension. But if we zoom in, it looks like that's extension number 3. Difficult to see, but it's right near my cursor. It's number 3. If I open up that dimension on the extensions and markers, you can see that number 3 is currently highlighted. And what I can do is say, let's say bottom of wall finish or whatever it may be. And that will now show up on those. And then of course this is configurable. So if you wanted to, change these around and adjust the dimensions, you can pull these around or pull them down and make any adjustments that you want. So it's fully configurable depending on what you want. It's a pretty powerful tool and a great way to start with a story pole dimension.
Thanks, Scott. We received a typed in question from Charles, and he was wondering how you made the 3D model that's on the table behind you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so that's over my shoulder here, and I probably don't have the ability. Maybe I can grab it here. Yeah, so this is a 3D model. You can export this, and then there's a number of places that enable you to print those. So I just exported this as a symbol, kind of like we were talking about with those planters. And then I sent it to a print house. There's a few of them. I think, well, I'm hesitant because I don't want to mention the wrong ones, but there's a number of places that will print a 3D model. There's also the STL format if you want to print those. Those don't really have a lot of color in them, so I prefer to use the export as a 3D studio file that's built into Chief Architect. And then there's a number of 3D printer services out there, and they'll print your models up depending on the size you want. They charge you based on scale. Not sure if that's like a 30-second scale or something of the house. And then, that's how I got that printed model. But thanks for noticing.
Alrighty, thanks, Scott. And then we had a user that was wondering about the gable style windows. How would you shape them in the center so that it follows both roof planes like a triangle shape?
Yeah, so that's a good question. You can see in the screen here, these are following the shape of the roof itself. And that process is pretty easy. Let's go back in and open this up. Let's maybe shoot an elevation of the back side of this. So let's shoot an elevation on the back side. And so when you have a window, let me delete these two. The easiest way on the shape panel is to say matches roof. If that window happens to be in the center and you want it to match both roof planes, well, let's take a look at how you might do that. Let's grab a window. Let's place a window here. Let's go ahead and make this guy a little bit closer to the center. And let's do a couple things here. So let's set the height of that to be 26 inches. And we'll try the width at 58. We'll try to just make this square to begin with and also make it fixed glass. And I think the other ones were 92 and an 8 floor to bottom. Okay. There we go. So I now have this window, and if I center that a little bit better than I have here. So this is a window that is 26 inches high on the two sides. And one of the things that I like to do, because if you go in and you go to the shape and you say match roof, it's going to pick one of the sides of the roof, and that's really not what you want. So let's go back and undo that. If you want a triangular shaped window, here's a way to cheat at it. Click the help button down here. And in the help file, there's lots of great information in here. So if you come down, this is context sensitive, come down to the shape, and here is a little bit of a diagram here. And I think the question relates to probably B on the diagram. Let me see if I can zoom this up a little bit. And so if you take a look at B, and it says, has matching, right and left, and a top inside corner. So that's what we need to do. We need to figure out the top inside corner. So how do you do that? Let me just slide this over to the side here. So we know this window was 58 inches in width, right? 58 inches in width. So on the shape, we come in top inside corner. We'll pick one of them. And let's set the offset of that to be 29 inches. So that's half the window, right? And this window turns out to be 29 inches, and our roof is 8 and 12. So an 8 and 12 pitch means you go over 12 and up 8. So a little bit of math here. And probably what I would do is take 29, let's see if we can just do that in here, divided by 12 is equal to something like that. So let's just go back to that. So it's 2 and 7/16. So I took 2 and 7/16 times 8, the pitch of the roof, then I could, let's see if we can actually do that here in the dialog. So 29 divided by 12 is, oh, didn't mean to close that, undo it once. So let's go back and try that again. So on the offset, we said 29 inches, and we'll just use this for our math. Divided by 12 is that, and then if we said times 8, that gives us a number that would be 19.5 inches. So I need to increase the midpoint of this 19.5 inches. Let's change that back. I just used that for math. So 26 plus, what did we say, 19.5 approximately. That's not going to be exact because it rounded it. If our math was right in that dialog, so we just needed to do the pitch math on that to figure it out. But the help was kind of the key to figure out where I need to go, find the diagram you're after to set those dimensions, and it was the added top inside corner. So hopefully, if that's the window style you're after for that mid-gable section, that's how it's done.
Thanks, Scott. That's all the questions that I received. Did you have anything that you would like to cover?
Yeah, okay. So first of all, thanks everybody for participating. And, we had a number of submissions, and hopefully there was a few good takeaways. Kind of a fun challenge to figure out if you can determine all of the added components. And so this week's winner, let me just pull that over here. Wanted to make an announcement. It turns out that Tim, who already did a shout out here with a question, Tim Schrock of Design Build Solutions in Indiana, not only did the Clerestory style roof, but also his backdrop was fall appropriate. So a little bonus point there. Anyways, Tim, if you're still on the session, first of all, congratulations. And maybe if you wanted to unmute your microphone, maybe share your secrets on what you did here.
It looks like Tim had to head out early, Scott.
Okay. Okay. Well, Tim shouted out earlier, and congratulations. If we open up the Chief Challenge, we're going to be sending you the Chief Gear Kit. This includes the Collector Edition Yeti mug. This is our 30-year company anniversary mug, the cap, builder pencil, and some playing cards. So congratulations, Tim, on your submission. We appreciate everybody else that submitted as well. And a couple other things I'll point out before turning it over. We have one final Chief Challenge. That'll be next week, same place, same time. And this is the doghouse. And few aspects about this that may create a bit of a challenge for you, ramp, traction strips, etc. If you want to participate in that, and a few takeaways and productivity tips we'll talk about next week on the Chief Challenge. Then we have a virtual training event coming up, and that's for the residential intermediate as well as the kitchen, bath, and interiors. These are online classes. They're 4 hours a day. They're spread out over the course of 4 different days, and you can do this for the convenience of your home or your home office or your office, and great way to learn additional tips. If you're a little bit newer to the program and you want to take advantage, we have free boot camps. Tomorrow there is a kitchens and bath boot camp, and that I believe starts at 10 a.m. Is that right, Phil?
Correct. Yep, that event will kick off at 10 a.m.
Yeah, and that's Pacific time. So if you can attend that, that's tomorrow, and then we'll be doing the residential version of that the following Friday. Not too far off, I suppose, is the Kitchen and Bath / International Builder Show. Chief Architect will be attending that. In addition to us doing seminars in our booth, we're going to be doing a training event, and that training event is immediately following the Builder Show. If you want to sign up for those courses, they do fill up usually pretty quickly. We've been restricting our in-person training classes, so this is one that you could attend in Vegas, and I hope to see you there. We've got an introduction and intermediate class for both the residential and kitchen and bath. So depending on where you're at in your learning needs, that training is at the end of the Builder Show. Hope to see you there. So thanks everybody for attending, and if you want to participate in next week's Chief Challenge, we'll see you back here, same place, same time.